welcome back.
So this is just a quick little video in our massive Honkai Star Rail 3.8 content drop where my viewer
Essentially took his time out of the day to come up with a Amphoreus pooling priority up to E2 S1 full teams with their respective notes. We're just gonna be able to see how accurate this information is gonna be, as well as any changes that I would like to make. So without further ado, let's just jump in right here.
Are you running low on your Fidalia funds? Well, worry not, because LD Shop is here. Developed by LD Player Emulator, a formal game top-up platform, LD Shop offers HSR top-ups up to 33%. All you need is your server and game ID and you're all set. It's safe, reliable, and almost instant, as you can see from this process over here. Simply take a look at the prices of items in-game and LD Shop like Express Pass and 80/80 honorary shots. Currently, there is a further 5% discount available one day before the update, and users registered using my link will also receive a 50% and 5% off coupon, which can save you a maximum of $50. The first top-up bonuses can be activated at LD Shop, and spending over 80 USD will gain you VIP, which rewards you a free supply pass. Check out the link in the description to top up now.
Starting off with Aglaea. So I'm guessing this is in order of importance. So for an Aglaea team, you want to get Aglaea with... Chat, I'm so confused, guys. I have no idea how to read this sheet. Why the hell is it Aglaea, Mydei, Castorice, Anaxa? Okay, I guess it's this, right? Like, this is the Aglaea team, then this is the Mydei team. Okay, so it's team by team. Okay, there is a weird ass format, bro. Okay, but okay, it's team by team. All right, note to the viewer, get better Excel spreadsheets. All right, so anyways, we're gonna go down by team. So first team is going to be Aglaea. So assuming you want to play Aglaea, step 1, you pull Aglaea. So step 1 is you're gonna be pulling Aglaea. Then step 2, in the order of highest importance, is getting E1 Aglaea over Cyrene. Alright, E1 Aglaea over Cyrene. And then step 4 is gonna be Aglaea S1. I'm not too sure what the -2 is gonna be. Followed by either Tribi or Sunday or Robin. When was the last time we have a Robin banner, by the way? I genuinely cannot remember. But that being said, bro, I would not pull for an E0 Robin. So, bro can just curve back panically. This is gonna be... What is TSR E1, bro? Chat, what is TSR? Oh, Tribi, Sunday, Robin, E1. Oh, okay, TSR. Okay, TSR E1. Then this is gonna be Cyrene E2, followed by Cyrene S1, followed by Aglaea E2, DHPD E2, DHPD S1, TSR S1, and TSR E2. I think generally speaking, everything from here onwards, I think is the area where I probably wouldn't really care, because this is 13 costs. I'm guessing this is cost, right? The number of costs that you're investing. From this perspective, if you do get yourself Aglaea E1, I would say that the need for Cyrene actually goes down a little bit, or rather, it will make your Sunday even more irrelevant if you're gonna be prioritizing Aglaea E1. Not that it's a bad item, but I think Aglaea E1 is really good because it really helps with the energy uptime. Okay, let me just zoom into this like this so it's like a little bit easier to see. Yeah, getting E1 Aglaea is fine, but like if you do get Cyrene right after and you really have the Aglaea E1, Sunday is pretty much like you really don't need him as much as you want a damage amplification anymore. If anything, I would say you just log in for E1 Tribi, assuming I'm going to be spending the 2 costs over here. E1 Tribi alongside the Cyrene E1, Cyrene and E1 Aglaea is going to be very good damage amplification. I would say that Robin should definitely die, and you slot in Cypher. So instead of Sunday / Robin, I will go for Tribi / Cypher, but Cypher doesn't need E1. I guess Cypher E1 is like, it's kind of right? I guess a little bit of patron staking. I don't think it's gonna be that crazy, but Cypher is actually really good for Aglaea, especially after you have Cyrene, because the Cypher's effect with Cyrene is free defense now, which is like pretty much gonna be out the entire time. So I would say that has like way more potential between both Sunday as well as Robin. Then if at this point of the time of the game, right? If you still have no Tribby, first of all, right now, there's no more Tribby banner. You don't really have to worry about it. We do have, wait, do we have car banner? Check, I can't remember, guys.
The greatest Honkai Star Rail tourist that has ever lived.
Okay, we do have car banner. Okay, so yeah, so like if you don't have Tribby as of this point in time, right? I would say that car, if you assuming you want to play Aglaea, right? Assuming you want to play Aglaea from bottom down all the way up, car is gonna be a pretty good pick here. So that is gonna be my personal suggestion. These two, you can kind of just throw them away. Aglaea's S1, the thing with this Aglaea S1, right, is that if you were to get Aglaea S1, I wouldn't prioritize it over getting your third slot. Because if you have no units in your third slot, that is far worse than getting a Aglaea S1. Because this, I'm assuming this chart assumes that you have no units, right? You have no Tribby, no Sunday, no Robin, no car, no absolutely nothing. Getting that unit there first is gonna be more important than Aglaea S1. So that's what I will go about doing it. Keep. Okay, I'm just gonna remove Sunday Robin so that you relevant more. Between Team E1 as well as Cypher E1, Cypher's E1 is honestly not too shabby. It's just that I would say that her value is gonna be a little bit more not determined because not enough people actually ran that E1 Cypher along with other things. Because the Cypher is basically giving you the patronage stacking, right? But we do know for a fact that E1 Tribby, the ability for E1 Tribby to pivot is gonna be a little bit hard, especially when it comes to single target content. And surprise, surprise, we are getting a lot of single target content, guys. Firefly, Hule is almost single target, right? Next MOC is gonna be Kokola and Bronya. I mean, you guys can see the guy is gonna be really risky. And then we're gonna be having Propagation Sam, which generally is gonna be really bad for Tribby, because Tribby's flow attacks ain't gonna be doing any crit damage against Propagation Sam. But Cypher can run a tanky build, and you can pivot Cypher's true damage into Propagation Sam itself, right? So, with that being considered, it can kind of just lay down for itself. Okay, this particular cost is technically gonna be 2 costs. You're jumping from E0 all the way to E2 Cyrene. I think this point here is gonna be fine. E2 Aglaea is basically for the dev down. It's not gonna be that crazy, and honestly, everything from this point onwards, I wouldn't even consider it. It's a little bit too expensive. HS are, I think, a good stopping point, like a good, well-invested team is around the 6 to 7 cost mark, right? So from 8 costs onwards, you're approaching like the overkill territory. Like if you're talking about like 0 cycles, all kinds of stuff, then maybe you want to look a little bit more than that. But I feel like generally speaking, this is a very, very good enough starting point. Because Cyrene, if you want to run the Remembrance Light Cone from the other shop for the speed buff, get a Von Whack, you don't want to get 0 cycle, right? The key thing is you don't care about 0 cycling. I think that is going to be fine, right? So I think generally for Aglaea, it is okay. Just that the Penacony sisters and brothers are going to go fuck themselves, right? So that's going to be it for our Aglaea team. Next team, Mydei. So assuming you want to pull Mydei, the most important unit is Mydei. And there it is, right? So the most important unit is going to be Mydei. I will say that between Mydei's next cost, which is going to be the Cyrene over here, I would consider getting that Tribby first. Because if you do not have Cyrene, you could still cook something like the old Mydei team, right? The old Mydei team of like Sunday, Tribby, as well as either Gallagher, Luocha, or even Hysilens, it can still function. But Cyrene is a very, very big damage upgrade because bro essentially acts as Sunday. So once again, Sunday serves 0 purpose, which, yep, I'm glad to see there's no Sunday over here, so we definitely don't need Sunday anymore. So this E1 Mydei, I would not prioritize this by that much, because the main gimmick for the E1 is to turn his skill into evolution targeting, so it makes him really, really good with pure fiction. But if you're just still going to be going up against like single target, which is what we're going to be expecting for this MOC as well as the next MOC, this E1 is not going to be as important. For example, say Hysilens S1, Mydei S1, E1 Tribby. I think it's going to be not the good. I'll probably swap out this with the E1 Tribby, and a Hysilens S1 Mydei is around the same caliber. The thing without Hysilens is you don't really have anyone else to substitute. So Hysilens over here is really, really important because she is essentially not just a sustain for Mydei, but she's also the driver for Cyrene. Because you're not going to be running DHP with Mydei, and she gives us a considerable amount of stack with Cyrene herself, right? So this is going to be fine. Hysilens will go up. Tribby E1 will probably go after Hysilens. Then Mydei E1, Mydei S1, that is going to be there. Hysilens S1 honestly is really, really good. So if you do have the cost to spare, the cut off, however, if you are talking about the Aglaea Team, is gonna be at this particular junction, right? So if you can afford it, scrap Mydei E1, scrap my Hysilens S1, get Cyrene E2, then Hysilens you can run the brand new Mimi Light Cone, the 4-star Mimi Light Cone from the banner, which is gonna be this thingy over here. This Light Cone honestly is pretty decent. Okay, you guys can't see it, but basically this pink Mimi Light Cone is honestly pretty decent. Then saving both E1 Mydei and this S1 Hysilens just for E2 Cyrene, I think that will be doing your course a lot more favors when it comes to performance. Then everything else below it is basically overkill. This is overkill. This is definitely overkill. This is definitely overkill. I think Chibi is like a perfect unit to stop at E1 Ezreal. I've been using E1 Ezreal Chibi my entire life. I have never ever complained. So very good, very nice. So I think for Mydei Team it is relatively straightforward. I would say specific to the min-maxers, the zero cyclers, I would consider you guys to pick up a Saridra. Saridra actually works really well with Cyrene Mydei because after you use the Cyrene buff on Saridra, she minus that one stack of cost or rather charge, so you get your enhanced skill every 5 instead of 6, which is basically like a much higher damage amplification. And on top of that, you can always time the duplicated God Slayer using Saridra. But for casuals, maybe you don't have to worry about it. So casuals, I would still recommend Mydei, Cyrene, Hysilens, and Chibi. But for the min-maxers, right, the elitists, Saridra is honestly really good. Even though she's buffing attack, doesn't really matter. The duplicated God Slayer is super fucking good. And it makes it a lot more accessible once you combine that with Cyrene, right? So that's gonna be that for our Mydei team. Aggravated mouse pad. I love you too, right? Okay, this team, if I were to rank all these teams, right? So like, if let's say this entire chart was at the Amphoreus pulling priority in ascending order, or rather descending order, this is probably the strongest team as of we have right now. So if you really care about like meta and like what is the team that will probably have like the longest lifespan because of the amount of damage, the synergy, then Castorice should be the number one. But this is basically an alphabetical and release order, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. But for Castorice team specifically, yes, get that Hysilens, right? Stop saying, oh my god, can my Gallagher sustain Castorice? Can my Luocha sustain Castorice? Can I use Bailu? Like, just get Hysilens. If you don't want to get Hysilens, then fuck it, just stop playing Castorice. So this is the almost, at this point, it is pretty much non-negotiable. Just get it by the bitch. Evernight is really good. In fact, if you have no Evernight and no Chibi, at this point of time, Chibi is gonna be completely irrelevant, right? Because we are assuming that you're starting from ground up. So Castorice, Hysilens, March, this is absolutely factual. Then the next unit, you are gonna be trying to get yourself that Cyrene. I would say Cyrene is super important here. It is not gonna be more important than Hysilens. It is not gonna be more important than Castorice S1. Right? These two is gonna be lower priority because she has the highest amount of synergy with these three. So these three plus Cyrene, full E0 Ezreal is gonna do exceptionally well, even if you were to, let's just say, get the S1 for Hysilens and Castorice and you step on Chibi, right? So Cyrene can definitely go up over here. Castorice S1, I would say this between Hysilens S1 is pretty comparable. It's just that Hysilens S1's replacement, which is the new Mimi Light Cone, is only really good. So Castorice S1 is just that we don't really have anywhere close to the replacement, so this is gonna be fine over here. E2 Castorice is exceptional, but cost for cost is not gonna be as worth it as E1 March. So for one cost, if you want to just sacrifice that one more cost, getting E1 March will be more important than getting E2 Castorice. If you can sacrifice two costs, then you could consider E2 Castorice, or you could consider E2 Evernight. But I don't know if there is there is a separate column for March over there, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. But at this point in time, right, if you're considering if you want to E2 Castorice, you might want to just get and step on a pure Evernight DPS team because you're starting from scratch. But this is assuming the guy actually wants to play Castorice, right? Because you're building a team around DPS, so this is gonna be fine. Just be wary of course. Everything over here, I don't think it needs to be that much. It's a little bit excessive, so I will always stop around this 7 cost category, right? So that's gonna be for Castorice. Going into Anaxa, step 1. Okay, very good. It's a step 2. Cyrene is super good for Anaxa, but so is Saridra. These two honestly should be around the same caliber, because if you pull for Cyrene and you didn't get Saridra, Anaxa's value goes up by a lot because you can't get the duplicate skill, right? But if you pull for Saridra and you skip Cyrene, you're gonna end up using the Bomb Sunday again, which is just like not comparable, right? So these two are honestly around the same caliber, so getting these three should be the number one priority. You don't need to care about sustain because DHP is a free unit, so these three are completely fine. Then between all these, I personally don't really care that much about Sarija E1, right? I think the Sarija E1 getting the additional, the energy regeneration and all the kind of other effects, it is not gonna be as crazy as compared to, okay, honestly, for all these calls over here, you might as well save everything and all in E2 Cyrene. Because next out at S0, you can run the Albert Lycon, it's gonna be fine. Sarija, you can run DDD, you can run Sunday, you have like any other, you can run a Bronya S1. It's gonna be pretty okay, but I would say that her S1 is honestly not too bad because it does give you the +1 skill point, which makes it a lot more skill point positive since Anaxa does use quite a bit of skill point, right? So E2 Cyrene is honestly gonna be the best upgrade right here. Then your sustain is always gonna be there. Sarija S1, I will swap with the Anaxa S1, but if you are gonna be talking about absolute highest damage increase, look into your inventory and see if you have a D Herda Lycon. A D Herda Lycon can work very, very well for Anaxa because you essentially are going to be able to get the additional crit rate. So you don't really want to waste and kill D Herda. You can basically just swap over there. So that is going to be fine, right? All these other things like I mentioned is going to be too expensive. I think that out of all these teams, which also kind of corresponds with like the Zero Cycle website, Anaxa is consistently one of the lowest cost Zero Cycles because he really doesn't need that much vertical investments, right? You can see all the Zero Cycles is always Anaxa, Phainon, and Evernight. The lowest cost Zero Cycles. So running this team, you don't need that much investment, right? They just step on the RMC, then it's going to be good to go, right? So that is going to be there for Anaxa. This is going to be Mr. Castellana. As crazy as this looks, honestly, E2 Phainon is a insane unit. It legitimately is the... I think if there's any other unit in this entire field that needs the E2 first, it is probably going to be E2 Phainon. This is legitimately fucking insane. Then after you get an E2 Phainon, you can get yourself the Sarija. It's going to be great. Step it on. Very good. The S1, frankly speaking, it is not as crazy as it looks. Because back in our days with Mr. Phainon, the S1 was super good because you needed the S1 to hit a specific speed breakpoints. But with Cyrene in the picture, you never ever leave the ultimate stage. This S1, I've seen a lot of Phainon E2 Zero Cycles where they just use 4 and Aeon, completely fine, right? So I wouldn't get this. At this point of time, after your E2 Phainon, after you get the Sarija, you can either consider between these three for that slot, assuming you're going to be running DH3 as sustain, Mimi, Sunday, and Cyrene. Now, Mimi is going to be going away to the Elation planet, so bro is not going to be here forever. So between Sunday and Cyrene, frankly speaking, at E2 Phainon, from what we have right now, you won't see that big of a difference because HP inflation hasn't really kicked in all the way yet, right? So maybe in like, give it like 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, where your Sunday can no longer keep up because the final damage in each rotation is not fast enough, that's when Cyrene's ultimate will give you a lot more value. The problem is, we don't know if Cyrene is going to be, because lore-wise, Cyrene is gone. She is the fully of Amphoreus, the Amphoreus fully, right? So maybe if she, imagine if they put off a rare situation with Cyrene. That would be a little bit crazy, right? So I'll leave out to you guys to say what you want. For the more future-looking perspective, like if you are more scared of what will happen to your Phainon in the future, I personally think Cyrene is going to be really, really good. The E1 Sarija, I personally think this is way less important than it is, because what this did back then is that the additional energy will give the Phainon the additional stack. But because you're going to be getting Cyrene, you are technically not ever going to be leaving your ultimate. So this E1's value is not going to be as high anymore. This will actually be really, really good if you run with Sunday. So Sunday plus E1 Sarija, so even though you would leave your ultimate state, you can still kind of slot back in way quicker because of this E1, right? But if you do have Cyrene, I think this is going to be whatever. So if anything, I will put the Cyrene first before the Sarija, and then get yourself the E2 Cyrene, and then you don't really need to consider about the Sarija E1 ever again. So that's pretty much it, right? Cyrene S1, Sarija S1. S1, honestly, I don't really think it's that crazy. So the HPD all the comes out is going to be excessive. So once again, cutting off at around E2 Cyrene, that will be the highest upgrade to the E2 Phainon, right? So that's that. Second last team is going to be DOT. Now, unfortunately, we do not have a Kafka rerun, and unfortunately, we are not going to be able to see the war between Sarah as well as my DOT man, Restrained Dreamer. I would say, though, Sarah's camp is basically you don't need Kafka. Alright, you don't need Kafka, just run Hysilens with Cyrene, right? Run it with the with Car, DHPD, it's gonna be fine. If you are DOD perspective like Restrained Dreamer, the thing is, your Kafka needs, right? Absolutely needs to be on Ego 4-piece. No question whatsoever. Get her the energy regeneration, get her the speed required. The good thing about running this is, if in the future DOT comes up with another DOT, that is when I think Cyrene can kind of just fuck off, right? Because that new DOT is not going to be for Amphoreus. So she's not going to be part of Chrysos. So for this situation, if that new DOT comes in and Cyrene cannot function with that new DOT because she's not from Chrysos or Amphoreus, it's not really worth it to cling on to the Cyrene synergy, because Kafka, right now she works because of the respective text, but in the future, with both the new unit and Kafka, your Cyrene is just basically never going to ultimate. So you might as well just go all in for the Kafka, Hysilens, new DOT, run a DHPD or a Huang or whatever something's going to be, and that's going to be done. So for out of all these teams over here, the only team that I have the lowest amount of faith in when it comes to Cyrene's lifespan is going to be for DOT. Because DOT didn't start with Hysilens, right? DOT has started with Kafka since version 1, and Cyrene is not going to say, okay, this is the end of DOT, right? So we are going to leave it as that. All these other things, I think E1 Kafka is really good. I don't really care about the Hysilens S1, especially if you have like your Black Swan S1, Jiaoqiu S1. You always just step it on. DHPD E1 gives you a little bit more damage, but I don't think it's also going to be that crazy. If anything, I think this list for DOT, the cut-off is very simple. You should only consider getting yourself the Cyrene for DOT if you can still fit your Cyrene to your team 2. So for any of these other Amphoreus unit, getting this is like a free slot, right? It's like a Mydei Song, you buy one, get one free. So you buy one Cyrene, you get a free Cyrene slot in your DOT team, but you shouldn't pull Cyrene specifically only for DOT, because as a matter of fact, in the future going to version 4, when they have a new DOT unit, that unit is going to come in, and then it's going to replace Cyrene, right? So that's why I think, I personally think DOT, you don't really need that much cost. Just see what the future patch is going to be, and that will be that. And lastly, going into March 7th, or rather, Evernight. If you want to play Evernight main DPS, get Cyrene before March E2, right? Just get Cyrene before March E2, because the team is essentially going to be Mimi, Hyacin, Evernight, Cyrene. No questions asked, bada boom, bada bing, bada. But for main DPS March 7, honestly, these 4, they are non-negotiable anyways. Because you're playing main DPS March 7, you save the cost from Castorice, you go on Evernight, then this is going to be fine. Hyacin also definitely non-negotiable. In fact, all these units here, non-negotiable. I will say Hyacin is going to be more important than E2 March, because otherwise you literally have no one else to use. So this is going to be my change. S1, very good. S1, very good. Cyrene S1 is not going to be that crazy. And everything else here is purely just for like additional cost for the whales, right? So I think March 7 is super straightforward. You can check out our anomaly arbitration 0 cycle video where we did it with a main DPS March 7 to kill out this cook. And finally, we're just going to jump into our notes over here to wrap up this video, right? Notes. DHPD and arms are free to play options. Color boxes means close enough to pity in any pool order within the box. Fei Xiao Sweat. Fei Xiao Sweat drops signature priority for remaining unit by the number in brackets. Assumes S5 DDD. Absolutely, everybody has S5 DDD.
The greatest
Mainly focus on AA as well as some MOC. Hysilens and S1 can be substituted for Black Swan and DLR. That's fine. Hysilens, I'm less. I agree. I agree for DOT, right? For Aglaea, I see some people clearing at lower cost if sending or bombing over team sometimes. So that's why I label is all 3 rather than just team. Sometimes going for E6 is just getting some E2s. The sustained convert from DHPD S1 was not considered. I would say everything here is relatively fine, except for this thing, right? I would never ever believe this. I think pulling for E6 in Honkai Star Rail is like the worst use of a strategies, even for like a Wheel of Free to Play, because you can literally just look at what happened to E6 Firefly, E6 Akron. If you don't have their respective upgrades, they will still fall off incredibly hard, right? That 7 costs you to invest with a single E6. If you split them over time with multiple E2s, couple of E0s, E1s over here, I think you will have a way easier time clearing instead of a single E6 with like a bunch of free options, right? So that's why I feel personally after playing for 2.5 years. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I think generally speaking, this list is pretty okay though. I'll give this list a grand total a 7. Okay, fine. I'll give it 8 out of 10. I think this is honestly a very, very good list. 8 out of 10. Thank you so much for coming up with this over here. Let me know what you guys think before we are about to say bye-bye to Cyrene forever, because 3.8 is going to come in next week and we're never going to see Cyrene ever again. Word of the day is going to be goodbye, Cyrene. Join the use code Poke. Have some gamers up. Bye.